From Informa TechTarget, I'm David Essex, and this is Enterprise Apps Unpacked. When environmental, social, and governance practices first took off, most ESG and sustainability software was just about gathering data and digitizing the reports that were suddenly in demand from boards of directors, customers, and other stakeholders. It could be abused as a faster route to greenwashing, putting a nice face on practices that weren't actually good for the environment. When I cover what enterprise software vendors are up to, I always ask if their sustainability software does anything directly to improve the reality of what the ESG ratings and gorgeous sustainability pages on corporate websites are showing. The fact is, digital technology has been used for years to monitor and optimize resource use. The Internet of Things, with its cheap sensors and ubiquitous connectivity, amplified those capabilities. And now AI is helping not just analyze all that data, but respond to it by automatically optimizing resource use. APIs and the cloud are increasingly linking these systems to enterprise applications. Schneider Electric is a Fortune Global 500 manufacturer and a major player in this kind of technology for environmental sustainability. It makes hardware and software for energy management, intelligent automation, and safety for homes, factories, and other buildings. It also does this for data centers, a growing concern because of the huge amounts of water and electricity they require. Today's guest, Peter Weckesser, is Chief Digital Officer of Schneider Electric. He leads its internal digital transformation efforts, the development of its EcoStruxure IoT platform for industrial automation, building management, and sustainability, and applying AI to those areas. Previously, he had a similar role in the Defense and Space Division of Airbus, the world's biggest aircraft builder. He began his career in product development at Siemens, another big IT-centric manufacturer. There's irony in vendors offering more technology to improve sustainability. They're in the business of selling products after all, but wouldn't using less technology and fewer resources be more effective? We talked about that in the podcast, along with the latest developments in AI and IoT, what he's learned about the challenges and opportunities of using technology for sustainability, and his hopes for reducing global warming before it's too late. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Enterprise Apps Unpacked for the real story on the software that runs your business. Peter, thanks very much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks for having me.
Much of Schneider Electric's sustainability work is focused on energy efficiency, from what I can tell, and providing customers with digital technology to optimize their energy use. What are the most important digital technologies that are being used in that effort?
Well, that's really a good starting question, David. And it's actually not one technology, but it's a whole set of technologies that have to work together to deliver sustainability outcomes. And if you think of the technology set, it's really I would start talking about IoT providing data from sensors. This is certainly one element. And this is the vertical integration really from the shop floor to the top floor. Then we have software really across the life cycle, from designing assets, designing the electrical system, creating the digital twin, then of course building the real asset. And then you have this intersection of the life cycle with a vertical integration, where IoT really provides sensor data into the digital twin, which allows us to, first of all, collect data. So, and this is probably the third element that I want to mention as a technology. It's data platforms that really host the digital twin of the electrical system and augment that digital twin with real data, and we call that our energy hub. And that's, of course, necessary to do analytics on top, right? And if you think of analytics, we have means of very classical analytics where you compare data with thresholds. But then, of course, AI is taking a bigger and bigger space in this analytics domain, and AI will be certainly one of the key technologies also for the future, taking a big share if you think of what are the technologies that help us to drive sustainability.
Mhm. I'd like to drill down a bit into the Internet of Things aspect, because I'm curious how central it is to improving energy efficiency and just reaching other sustainability goals, and what kind of adoption you're really seeing. Because my perception, having followed this for a while, is that when IoT was first getting mind share and popularity roughly a decade ago, there was a gap between the vision we were told, which was internet connected sensors almost everywhere, and a reality that at the time seemed much less ambitious, like having iPads on the shop floor that were Wi-Fi connected and saying, well, that's Internet of Things. And I mentioned in my questions to you, I mentioned Nest thermostats in people's homes. Those, it's probably unfair of me to say because that it really does sound like Internet of Things. It's internet connected. There are sensors. There's now AI, as I understand it. And I imagine that Schneider probably has similar things. But compared to those things, widespread enterprise use cases and deployments of IoT were a much heavier lift. So I'm wondering how much of these heavier lifts and more widespread deployment you're seeing among your customers.
Yeah, also a super interesting question, and certainly Internet of Things is the foundation, right? When Internet of Things first became popular as a concept 10 years ago, we really didn't have the right level of platforming from the beginning, right? In the past, we had a lot of silo technologies, from sensors to communication means into applications, and also in Schneider we had really silo technologies stacks. And our work over the last couple of years was going from more vertical and silo technology stacks into a platforming activity. And this platforming, it's the key concept of that is, again, an IoT platform that is able to connect to all the sensor data, all that sensor data feeding into one data repository, and then also making the horizontal integration from the design of the digital twin and making the digital twin as a model available in that exact same data platform. So a lot of that foundational work was required, and some of our system had to be re-architected. And I'm certainly very happy to say that we have achieved this foundational work today, that we really can deliver value on this today. And a lot of our products, like a product like Resource Advisor, is taking full advantage of that platforming work and that technology integration, that we can have access to any sensor that is Schneider sensors, but that's also third-party sensors that we integrate, building this energy data hub. And then, of course, the very latest development is the rapid evolution of AI technologies that allow us now to utilize AI on the data that we collect in the energy data hub.
Mhm. So nice segue into my question. Everyone has to ask about AI, and we've seen tremendous abilities in the basic AI technology, as everyone knows, in the last 3 years, roughly. How has that improvement in AI changed the sustainability initiatives at Schneider? And I'm thinking both internally, perhaps, about how you use it for your own production processes, but also what you offer to customers.
Yeah. Let me go back a couple of years, right? We had a discussion about 5 years ago at Schneider whether AI would be relevant for us in the future or not, and that was an XCOM level discussion, like 2 years before generative AI was all of a sudden overnight on everybody's mind. Back then, we came to the conclusion that yes, we believe AI is a disruptive technology, and we made the decision already 5 years ago that we need to fully embrace it. We created an AI organization. We actually created the role of a chief AI officer at Schneider. And we decided to look at AI from two angles. One, how can we utilize AI to improve our internal business processes, from manufacturing to finance to sales? How do we drive productivity? And we found hundreds of use cases to do that. And today we have probably close to a triple-digit number of internal use cases in full operations. And then there's, of course, that second dimension, which we also started to discuss, which is how can we utilize AI within our product portfolio, right? And I've talked about this already a little bit, that we're collecting lots of energy data, and I can go into more examples illustrating this, that AI is becoming more and more a differentiating technology across our portfolio. This is true for some of our products already today. Resource Advisor, for example, is a product in Schneider that customers use to collect and drill into their energy consumption data. Of course, you need metering capabilities, so you need to be able to meter the consumption across various, for example, production processes. And then Resource Advisor gives you the capability to drive visibility and also helps you minimize energy consumption or consume energy at the right time. And this is a product which is heavily enabled by AI already today. So AI is a clear driver of efficiency and productivity, and we see AI as a technology that serves two dimensions. One is improving internal business processes at Schneider and making our product portfolio more differentiated.
I think you mentioned that you could give an example. Maybe this is a good time
Yeah.
to drill down a little further and maybe at the level of, oh, there's this sensor that records X, Y, and Z, and how does it feed into the software?
Yeah, let me talk about my favorite example, which is about the electrical grid. The electrical grid is changing quite a bit as we speak. So the electrical grid is going from a very centralized model that you have very few, very large power plants, and then you first transmit and then distribute the electrical energy to all your consumers. These consumers being homes, buildings, factories, other infrastructure. Now, as we all know, that has changed already quite a bit. We still have large power plants, but now we have added more and more decentralized power generation. That starts with solar on everybody's rooftop, that continues with smaller combined cycle plants and other means of power generation, not to forget wind, of course. So we can literally say today we have millions of little instances of power generation. Now, the grid was originally not built for that, right? The grid was really built for that old model. What is now required with a total decentralization of the power generation is a digitization of the grid in order to ensure the stability of the grid. And in addition to everything I've described just now, we are adding electromobility and lots of batteries as storage capacities to the grid. And a battery is used at certain times to store energy, which you have access of, and then it's used to power devices once there is not enough energy from your solar panels or from the grid available. So now this becomes the most complex control problem that we have seen so far. Basically, millions of consumers of energy that interact with millions of producers of energy. Now, and if you think of this problem, in order to really have a control mechanism and ensure grid stability, you need to have metering and data collection capabilities for every consumer and every producer. You need to have forecasts of energy, how much energy will be consumed or produced by this complex ecosystem. And of course, it will be all non-deterministic. So because there's times where you want to charge your car, so then you need more energy at your home, and that means the best fit for purpose technology will be AI to really get insights into millions of data points which are continuously delivered to to really help create the right control mechanisms for this grid of the future. And this is not science fiction that I'm talking about. This is happening as we speak. And we have a large number of microgrid examples where we are already doing this today using AI to help stabilizing the grid capabilities.
Mhm. As we've said, Schneider Electric is also a manufacturer and, has to make its own products. And for a long time, you've had a reputation that I've seen at conferences and elsewhere for using many of the same industrial automation technologies, of course, that you sell to customers. Um, I'm wondering what the company has learned from its own experiences in terms of the technologies and use cases that have the quickest ROI. And I'm thinking, because it's a broad topic, I'm thinking mostly in regard to the energy conservation and sustainability things we've been talking about.
Yeah. First I would say I hope we still have that reputation to be one of the most sustainable companies. We are at least pretty regularly recognized to be an extremely sustainable company, and we have a very strong ambition around that. I would like to share maybe two examples of really Schneider buildings or factories which were designed from the beginning to really meet the highest standards of sustainability and carbon emission. Let me start with a brand new one. We just inaugurated our new headquarters in Germany, which is a brand new building which was designed from the beginning to be CO2 neutral and already meets today all the requirements of the German government, which are set for 2045, right? So with this building, we are about 20 years early to meet the highest level of commitment. And of course, it includes all the technologies that I've just talked about: microgrid, solar capabilities, seawater heat pumps, right? And the combination of all these technologies really allows us today already generating a building which is CO2 neutral from the very beginning. That's one example. And of course, it's full of Schneider's technology. And then there's another example that I would like to talk about, which is one of our World Economic Forum lighthouse factories. It's our Shanghai factory, which really includes all of the manufacturing technologies of Schneider. That's EcoStruxure IoT, that's analytics, that's digital twin, lots of AI and machine learning. And of course, we have very strong KPIs, how we measure the impact of all the measures that we are taking here. And two KPIs that I can maybe share is that we have an accelerated time to market of customers' orders by 63%. And a significant reduction of defects that would need rework, which is in the neighborhood of 80%. So these are the building in Germany, the factory in China, are two out of many examples where we are using the broad set of Schneider technologies to drive productivity, efficiency, and sustainability. And that's very much along the lines of, we don't like to say eat our own dog food. We prefer quite a lot. We are drinking our own champagne here.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the pitfalls you've encountered in your own digital transformation that you share with customers so they can maybe try to avoid some of those pitfalls?
There are always challenges, right? And we are experimenting with, of course, new technologies every day. And we are staying at the forefront of technology. But technology is usually not the biggest challenge, right? While you always have to work through technology challenges, we are actually pretty good, and not only we, but many others are actually pretty good at mastering the technology challenges. It becomes much more challenging around prioritizing what are the most high value use cases. Where do you really want to invest your money? Where do you want to introduce change, and really setting the right priorities on the right use cases? And this is a very conscious debate that we have in Schneider and also with our customers. Where do we get the biggest impact for the money that we invest? I want to mention two other challenges, which is data. Data seems to be a challenge everywhere because we come from a world of fragmented data platforms. You can only extract the value with AI technology if you're able to link data. So most of the time, we have been spending most of a project's time on the data pipelining, data engineering. This was why we made the conscious choices to really go to very centralized data platforms and make that data accessible for all of our applications and use this really as a platform technology. And really, last but not least, it's the human side, right? And that human side is the change side. How do we make changes? How do we make changes in business processes? And how do we convince our own people? And also, how do we help our customers to convince their people that change in business processes is required and that we have to work differently? This is maybe the hardest part of that transformation.
Mhm. What's going especially well in your internal sustainability efforts, and what are some of the areas that are maybe more of a work in progress?
Yeah. So, and this is a good link to the previous question. I think what has gone very well all over the last couple of years are our platforming efforts, right? That all the product portfolio of Schneider is more and more based off common platforms, has access to the same data repository, and is exposing a very common user experience to our customers. The second topic I would mention is we put a lot of effort on upskilling the whole population of people at Schneider in all functions, in my organization, in Schneider Digital, but also in manufacturing, in sales, in finance. There was a very strong focus upskilling people on what are these what are these new technologies and how do you use these new technologies in the best possible way. Um, Now, if you ask me what's still work in progress and where do we still need to get better, is simplification and standardization of business processes, right? This is linking back to the previous question. I think this is the hardest part. I think we have progressed a lot, but here we still also have a way to go.
Mhm. How do organizations and societies, for that matter, avoid the problem of using so much technology to gain more control over their energy use that they end up making the problem worse by essentially adding technology on top of technology? On the surface, it seems like companies that are in the business of selling digital technologies, and that includes Schneider Electric, but even more so with the really big cloud compute and AI providers like Amazon, Google, IBM, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle, and others. They have an interest in selling more technology, but what if a big part of the solution of global warming, the solution to global warming and other crises, has to come from conservation that's achieved by less use of technology and not just using technology to make the higher levels of energy use more efficient?
So we decided long time ago to not look at the business problems from a technology angle first, but from a use case and business perspective, to really ask ourselves, what do we want to achieve for ourselves? What do we want to achieve for our customers? And then picking the right technology to solve that business problem in the best possible way. So we are always asking, and that applies to all of our AI activities as well, that we are asking ourselves, let's understand really the outcomes that we want to achieve first. Let's also define the KPIs that we want to put in place to measure if we are on the right track. And then picking the right set of technologies. And the way we pick these technologies is that we are focusing on what are the best technologies in terms of fit for purpose, right? And so we are not trying to look at every problem to be a nail and there is a hammer that solves all that problem. AI, being that hammer, is a good solution for many things, but it's not the best solution for everything that for every problem that's out there. So really, that approach, looking at the use and the business case, and then selecting the best fit for purpose technology. And then, of course, in all of these decisions, our strong ambition for sustainability is a guidepost as well, where we think about how do we make sure that the technology that we use is as green as possible. We have that concept of frugal AI, where we are trying to run AI models in the best possible way to generate net positive energy savings versus energy consumption only. So this is very conscious and deliberate decision making, not starting from the technology, but starting from the use case and the desired outcome.
The tremendous energy and natural resource demands of the huge data centers that are needed for AI processing, such as the water use, for one thing, are getting increased scrutiny as a downside of AI. What is Schneider Electric doing to offer technical solutions to that problem?
Yeah. So this is part of our overall sustainability strategy, and there's of course no doubt that the build out of the global fleet of data centers is consuming more and more energy. We are very dedicated and committed as one of the key suppliers for the electrification and cooling of these data centers, that we continuously improve the technology in order to do so. To minimize the energy demand and also help optimize the overall energy consumption. For example, we have acquired a company called Motive Air at the end of last year. And Motive Air is a specialist in liquid cooling. And liquid cooling has a lot of advantages over classical air-based cooling concept that really allows us to help our customers to drive more energy efficiency into their data centers. And also our EcoStruxure technology, the IoT technology that we talked about before, helps customers not only diagnose issues and problems in the data center, but it helps customers also to optimize the energy consumption in the data center. So this is, of course, a continuous improvement activity, but we are dedicating a lot of our focus to drive data centers and help our customers to operate data centers in the most efficient way possible.
So, how far along is the technology that you've just been describing in terms of actually being in place versus maybe being in testing or in prototype?
So, of course, technology will always improve, right? But today, there's a technology portfolio available that is ready for use, right? So it's not, we are not talking about stuff that might come out in years from now, but there is a technology portfolio available, which includes liquid cooling, it includes predictive maintenance, it includes AI-driven energy optimization, which is available already today. Now, at the same time, of course, data centers go to higher and higher energy density. And this is why we work with leading suppliers like NVIDIA, plus with all of our customers. How do we design these data centers? And when I say design, it's the electrification and the cooling of these data centers in the most efficient way for the future GPU technologies that will be coming out in a few years. So we have all the right technologies available today, and together with our partners, we are working on the technologies that will be needed in the next years to come.
Hmm. What tend to be the main hurdles? And I'm thinking of there could be a wide variety: technical, organizational, managerial. You mentioned people issues earlier, financial, that are holding companies back from achieving their sustainability goals.
Yeah. So I don't think it's technology, right? Technology will evolve, technology will get better, but technology is not holding us back to really work on these goals and be really committed to our sustainability ambitions. In the areas where most weak work is needed, I would probably point out 3 or 4 areas. And I've talked about outdated processes before, right? So this is something where we are very focused on internally at Schneider. How do we really make sure that our business processes are state of the art? And we are, of course, working also with our customers on their production processes, on their operations processes in data centers to make sure that business processes are state of the art. Second is we see in many cases still a lack of an end-to-end strategy. Sustainability is not only an outcome, but it's part of the design process of your business, of your product portfolio, of your go-to-market, of your full value chain. And while Schneider is very advanced in this, we still see a lot of room, and we are working with many of our customers to really also define this end-to-end strategy. Number 3 is probably half technical, and I would call that data fragmentation, which has only been a small problem in the past. It becomes a huge problem today, because if you have your data in fragmented data repositories, it becomes extremely difficult to apply AI at scale. So what's holding us back in many of our AI projects, including projects with our customers, is data fragmentation that needs to be fixed first, right? Again, was not so much a problem in the past, but if you want to scale AI, it becomes a necessary foundation that you need to fix. And we have done a lot of work in Schneider on this already, and we are working with our customers to support them on this as well. And then, of course, there's always the question, what are the financial constraints? How much do we need to invest? And what would that return of investment be at some point of time? So these are the 4 main hurdles I would point out when it comes to achieving the sustainability goals. And but there are ways to overcome these hurdles.
Mm-hmm. So it's clear that Schneider and you personally, I think, are really working hard on this. But how hopeful are you that humanity can get global warming under control before we reach the point of no return that we've been warned about for so many years?
So this is a very difficult question, and a look into the future that is not easy, right? And I see very different trends in various parts and geographies, right? I'm still cautiously optimistic because all the technologies exist today that help us reduce carbon emissions up to 70% through electrification and digitization. And if we would apply all these technologies in the right way, that would help us to save between 10 and 15 gigatons of CO2 emissions annually. So technology is there, right? We need to apply this technology. We need to make the right investments. I personally believe sustainability is the single biggest problem of this generation. And I'm certainly committed, Schneider is certainly committed to contribute our part to this. And we are very happy that many customers work with us, and we are able to support them, help, and drive their sustainability ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's urgent now, right? And it's time to act.
It sure is. Well, Peter, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today.
David, thanks a lot, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Enterprise Apps Unpacked, where we give the real story on the software that runs your business. To learn more about business applications, explore our content on searcherp.com. Find us on YouTube at our channel, Eye on Tech. Subscribe to our podcast to receive the latest episodes as they drop. And if you liked what you heard today, give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. Until next time.
Podcast programming and promotion by Kelsey Waddell. Podcast production and quality oversight by Anne Steshu. Music supplied by DP via Getty Images. This is an Informa TechTarget production.